just a second. So thank you guys. There are people outside that don't know that we have some chairs, so come in. You guys in the back, come sit down, get comfortable. I got some time, so I want everybody to get in here and get in a seat and make yourself comfortable. So, as you heard, I am TANA GOERTZ. As you saw, I am friends with our great president, and I'm going to give you the cliff notes of my 17-year relationship with Donald Trump. I love it when people go, her 15 minutes is going to be up. Sweetheart, it's been 17 years, so move over. There's no 15 minutes of fame. It's called working it and hustling. So, let me tell you a little bit about me. I was born in Pennsylvania. I'm not from Iowa. I married the man of my dreams, and it brought me to Iowa, which I'm very proud to live there. They are the nicest people. There's a saying called Iowa nice. I don't need to lock my front door, but I do now that I work for the president. Don't need to lock my car and can put my purse in the front seat. Nobody's going to rob me. That's Iowa. Great people live there. So I have grown, I moved around a lot, so I am very good at making friends very quickly because my parents didn't care about waiting until the end of the year in school to pull us out. They were like, you have 2 weeks to say goodbye to your best friend. It's happening. We're moving. So that was really frustrating. That was very difficult, and that's probably why I've been in my house for 21 years and haven't moved my children. So I got, was very friendly, very outgoing, and I realized very young in life, I guess like first, second grade, I started realizing that I had the gift of encouragement. I had the gift to be able to make an underdog or to make somebody who was down and discouraged and depressed feel better. And I didn't know when I was in first, second, third grade that I had this spiritual gift from God. I learned that later in life. So my oldest sister, who was my best friend, she was learning disabled. That's what they called that back in the days. She would have been 56. So she was learning disabled. And so my parents would get frustrated at night with her because she couldn't learn. And the school was saying, hey, if she doesn't get it, we're going to have to hold her back. And like a lot of parents, they get their validation from their children and their success. So my parents were like, well, we gotta do something about this. We gotta fix her. And they would yell and they would get discouraged. And so I made it my job in first, second, third, all throughout high school to be her teacher, even though I had no teaching ability. And I would work with her and I would coach her and I would help her pass school so she wouldn't get yelled at about not knowing math and not knowing how to do an algebraic equation. And I started paying attention to, she learned from me and she was okay around me. And then I took that gift all throughout my life and realized, I have this gift, so what do I want to do with my life? And I decided, well, I love people, and I'm a really good salesperson, and I could tell that because you can tell if you're a good salesperson when you're young because, how many of you grew up with siblings? More than 2. Okay, so large family. We had 5 in mine. If you can negotiate with a sibling that you get the shower first or you get the last piece of lasagna, you're a salesperson. Did you know that? Okay, so I knew I was really good at it. I always got what I wanted. And so I started saying to myself, well, I want to be a saleswoman and I want to use my purpose in life, what I'm good at, which was encouraging, motivating, being an inspirator, helping. And I want to make that my passion. So I decided that I wanted to sell Mary Kay because I wanted to make women feel beautiful and feel loved and feel just pretty and also make money along the way. So I would, have the parties, put the makeup on their face, tell them that they were beautiful, never lied, they were, and then I'd get paid for it. And I started realizing when you put your passion, people, sales, with your purpose, encouragement, and you make that your profession, so guess what? Money was coming in, and sales, and then I was getting people underneath me, and then next thing you know, will you be the speaker for Mary Kay nationally, and you're #1. Great, I didn't need another cheap watch or a red jacket. I wanted the clients. And so then I started realizing I was really good at this. And so I always tell audiences, put your passion with your purpose and make that your profession, and man, the sky's the limit. So we moved to Iowa. I just moved there with my husband. And I thought, man, I want wanna do something different. I feel like I wanna be bigger than this. I actually have a book called I'm Bigger Than This. I just knew I was built for something bigger. And I saw season 1 of The Apprentice. And I went, oh man, I could do that. I'm gonna go on that show. My husband's like, yeah, baby, you should. Never thinking I'd do it, right? So I said, I'm gonna apply. Well, I didn't know that 1,800,000 other type A, ambitious, driven, motivated people like myself also were going to apply. And I didn't know that Mark Burnett was only going to take 18 of us. So, like a lot of these great candidates here tonight were saying, trust in the good Lord. So I said, I'm going to just trust in the Lord. I know I'm 1 in a million, so let's just give it a roll. And the dice came up my way, and 18 of us go. Let's go. So I go to New York City, and the number one question I always get is, well, did you want to be famous? Did you want to be on television for that? No. Fame? I never even watched television. I didn't know who a celebrity was. Don't watch the news, never watch TV. My parents never had the television on. Honestly, I can tell you 5 shows I've watched probably my whole life. I was working. TV, I didn't even know who celebrities are. That seems like a pain in the rear end. No, I wanted to go learn from America's business icon what it takes to even be more successful. Kind of like what Mallory was saying. I want to be better. Unique idea, right? How many people say that? I want to be better. So I go. I get cast, and I go on that show, and I'll never forget day 1, meeting him in the boardroom. Like I said, I haven't watched much TV. I did watch season 1, and I knew who he was because I read his books, and I was all about business and all about success, and also a lot about money too, because I was a single mother at one period, and when you don't have a lot, when you do what I do, and more or less escape a man in the middle of the night with the clothes on your back with 2 small babies, you don't care about material things. I left the house and a car and everything and went to my mom and dad's house in Park City, Utah with literally a suitcase, and half of it was my baby's diapers. So I didn't care about material things. What I cared about was finances, because I said I'll never rely on a man again for my livelihood. I wasn't smart enough to even go to the bank account and take out $100. I went with maybe $10 in my pocket, but I knew my parents would take care of me, and they did. Good parenting. So I go on this show. I didn't go to be famous. I wanted to learn from him so I could make my businesses better. So for those of you who haven't watched the show, it's every week somebody gets fired. Another week somebody gets fired until there's 2 of us in the end. Well, I went all the way to the end. 2 teams. Book smarts, which means all the educated people, all the smart people in the room that went to college, that got your master's, that stayed on course and got that degree. Well, I was the opposite. I was making money on the summers selling candy, making more money than most fathers in the neighborhood. So I got a little taste of that and went, I'm never going to need school. But I do regret that. That is my number 1 regret. So go on the show, make it all the way to the end. And let me tell you a little bit about during the show, what Donald Trump was like. So first day in the boardroom, I was just like, this man is larger than life. What you see is nothing compared to having that man's presence in the boardroom. And you look at him and you're just like, wow, it's here, it's happening. And I just soaked everything up. And I asked questions. And he was like, nobody asks me these questions. Like, you're there to learn from me. You're not writing the book and asking the questions. Like, that's what I do, right? More or less, that was what I was thinking. But I was like, I don't care. I want to know some things. So I was like, can I ask you a question? And I call him Mr. Trump. It's really hard for me to call him president because I called him Mr. Trump for so many years. Mr. Trump, may I ask you a question? Sure, anything. How do you have, and he didn't have Barron at the time. Melania was pregnant with Barron when I was on the show. May I ask you, I'm a mother of 2, how do you have 4 adult children? They are all poised, polished, professional, productive human beings that have not been in trouble with the law, don't have a criminal record, don't do drugs, don't drink alcohol, and don't smoke. May I ask you, how did you do that? Because I've got 2, and typically, you got 1 bad apple, in the batch. One's good, one's kind of bad. Not my case. Hi, Miles, if you're watching. But you know, you typically have a couple that are a little bit off kilter. Sometimes you gotta reel them in. He didn't have that problem. So I asked him. He goes, you know what? I made my kids work. And I thought, well, that's interesting. They grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth. And how did he do that? I made my children work. And I told them 3 things. Don't ever do drugs. Don't use tobacco. And don't drink. I'm terrified of drinking. Tana, did you know I've never had a sip of alcohol? I said, no. I haven't ever known anybody that's never had a sip of alcohol. Unless they were like doing it for religious reasons or health reasons. But just to make that decision, especially being in New York City and like a celebrity, why, may I ask? Once again, another question. Well, my brother Fred died of alcoholism. I'm terrified of alcohol. And I thought, man, but how did you get him to listen? He said they just did. They respected me. I worked them so hard that they were too tired to party. I thought, I tried that one. But okay. So I asked about his children, and it made me think, just like the good people that I met here today, I met Brent Cox. Is his mother still in the room? There she is. And she was wonderful. And I'm like, it's because of you. You're the mom, you know, so take credit for these. Parents need to take credit. When Patrick was here giving kudos to his mother, that warmed my heart. Because if you aren't a good human being, your kids are not going to call you out. And Trump's kids were like that. And I just started noticing things. I watched how he treated his employees of all races, of all colors, of all nationalities, of all sizes and shapes. He was kind. But man, what I saw him do with the veterans was a whole different ballgame. And we'll get to that one when I talk about the campaign. So I just saw a lot. And I absorbed it all. Little did I know I needed to tuck it away in my pocket for later use. He was good to me. I got great rewards. I got to go to his home. I got to sit on his $30,000 blue Onyx toilet seat. Just saying. I'm like, hey, what is this? And then somebody that worked in the penthouse was like, it's $35,000. Blue Onyx toilet seat. I never seen anything like it. I got to eat at his kitchen table. They make homemade bacon for Donald Trump from Real Pigs. It's no joke. I got to see how the house was built. They actually had a crane put in the kitchen table before they put in the windows. It was incredible. So many rewards, but the big reward was knowing him. So I make it to the finals, and the whole world is now going to know whether or not I win or not. And so I had to fly my whole family to New York City. My husband was just dying, like, are you still in this thing? Like, only you, of course. And so they said that when I had like a 5-month window, and they said when you get off of the show, whether you win or lose, you're going to go on a media tour that would cost the average person about $700,000 for this tour. And you're going to start with the Today Show. And I thought, well, I'm no fool. If I'm going on the Today Show, I don't know how many million views they get, but when I was on the Apprentice, an NBC TV show, we got 41 million eyes on us every week. I'm going to guess the Today Show is much higher. And I went, guess what? The entrepreneur in me is not going on the Today Show without a product in hand. Thinking, well, of course, everybody else must have done that, right? Well, I didn't realize I was the only one. So I thought, okay, now God, you put me here out of 1,800,000 people. Then you funneled me down to 18. Now I'm down to 2. So you know I didn't go on the show to be famous. I want you to use me and tell me what am I going to do with this platform that you have been giving me. You're giving me a platform to have the world see me. Amen. What do you want me to do? And he said, use your gift of encouragement, your spiritual gift of encouragement, inspiration, and I want you to help children. Oh, okay, how am I going to do that? And he just, like he always does, gives you a sign. And no sooner I asked for that prayer, I prayed that. The first person that came up to me was like a reporter for the Time magazine, actually. And the first question she asked me is, how did your children allow you to be away from them for, it was actually 62 days away from my children. How did you do that? I never saw my children for 62 days. I never saw my husband for 62 days. And I thought, there it is. How did my children do that? Well, they knew that I was doing this for them, kind of like what you were saying, Mallory, and all the other candidates that, well, I didn't hear anybody else say that for the children, but I'm sure that's probably why a lot of you are running. But we do it for our children. They were watching me. So I thought, interesting. If a reporter is asking me that, and other parents have asked me that, and asked my husband that, I'm guessing we know following their dreams. Because when you become a mom and a dad, you go, guess what? Game over. Time to retire. Retire from my dreams, retire from my life, retire from it all. Well, not me, honey. Not me. I'm still going for dreams, goals, and we have to show our children that when we become parents, it's not game over. And you are running my life, and you are the reason that I breathe, even though I'm guilty of this and learned this the hard way. To do, and in here it talks about loving who you are, regardless of what your parents have, regardless of what you look like, and loving yourself. I came back from the TV hit, back to Iowa. I had sold 10,000 copies of that book, and the number one email or text or note that I received was, man, you encouraged me. I have given up on my own life. I have been a horrible parent. I have not taught my child self-esteem, self-control, self-discipline, and self-love. And that was the epidemic that I saw then, 17 years ago, and I see every day. Parents don't love themselves. Men don't love themselves, don't value themselves. Women don't think that they have power, and it's a shame. So I was thrilled to do a small little thing in that, but what I'm doing is so much bigger. So I go on the show, I find out that it wasn't for me, and Donald Trump didn't make the decision on who he hires. Mark Burnett does. So Mark Burnett said, you gotta hire the other girl because she had the college degree. Totally, I lost my mind, of course, but it's fine. It's fine now, 17 years later. But because Trump knew TANA didn't deserve to get fired, TANA should be the apprentice, he didn't fire me. So I'm the only contestant on the history of the show that actually went on the Today Show with a product, dummies, and then that didn't get fired in the live finale. And I had somebody offer me $1 million to go out in that live finale and to dupe Trump. I'm going to write about this in a book when I get time, like you. He offered me $1 million because he hated Trump, and he wanted me to screw Trump on national television. And I had my attorney vet this man. My attorney called me up and he goes, Tam, he's the real deal and he's got the money. And I went, no way. Why would I do that? I mean, $1 million sounds great. Why would I do that? And I'm so glad that I wasn't tainted and whatever the word I'm looking for is, coerced to do something so nasty for somebody who gave me a platform for the world to meet. I'm so glad that I did not take that indecent proposal, is what I call it. Yes. And it was a really good moment, and it made me feel good. A lot of people said you ought to do it because they said as many people love him like you do, there's just as many people that hate his guts, and they love you. And I thought, why do I care who loves me? I live for one man. Amen. And I'll tell you what, I know I'm good with the Lord. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I got sins. And I've got my own problems, but not many. I mean, Lisa, who works with Stacy, knows my one little sin here tonight, but it'll be our little secret. But anyways, I'm not perfect, but I'm so glad I